Cool. Thanks very much. Okay, guys, there may be more people coming in. We're happy to just let them go through it, but if you've had a chance to answer the question, that would be fantastic. And I'm just going to show you the results in that, hopefully. And this is not just from you, this is from everyone over the last couple of days who's come. And I'll just leave that up there for a wee minute while I chat to you about why we're doing this, as if you probably don't know. You know, we're in completely different circumstances to anything we've ever experienced, and all the focus seems to be at the moment about what's going on, but may seem that nobody's thinking about us as individuals. Or actually, if you think about, so 84 people have answered this question, and the bigger the letter, bigger the words, the more times it's been hit. And you can see what comes up as the important things for people again and again and again. And it's things like family and what that means to people and how important that is. Health, the unknown, being unprepared, uncertainty, overwhelmed. And I'll just explain a little bit about who I am and why I'm talking about this. So I'm one of the intensive care consultants. I'm called Tim Geary, and I've had, through the course of my training and my career, I've come across hard experiences that have really challenged me from a personal point of view. And I took an interest in resilience and from a personal and selfish point of view. And since then, I've gained some benefits from it. I'm by no means perfect, and this is just some of my experience I've gained over time. But I thought, given everything that's going on, that people need to be out there supporting each other, and this is just one little attempt to try and address that. Okay. So I was going to talk about human resilience, but actually I felt it was probably more appropriate to talk about, it's pretty much overwhelming just standing up. This is the 6th time I've given this talk, and it surprises me how interested people are. Well, it doesn't surprise me, but it just feels a bit overwhelming, everything that's happening at the moment. I mean, we're in the middle of the COVID crisis, and it hasn't really hit us yet. That's what you hear all the time, everywhere you look. You hear it on the news. You turn the news on, it's there. You turn on social media, it's there. And even the stuff that's, that you're not doing voluntarily, it's there. It's intruding on your life. Message after message after message. Even if it's humorous, it's there. It's COVID-19 meme, someone in self-isolation with a cat or with a sock puppet, or what you're doing on your own. And it's still there. And it's on your mind all the time. And what's happening is there's this drip, drip, drip Chinese water torture of basically negative feeling and negative thoughts and negative emotions. And personally, I can feel it. You can feel this tension and anxiety building up in yourself, and we haven't even got there yet. I was like, why are we doing this to ourselves when actually we're not even in the crisis bit yet? We're in the preparation stage, and we're feeling drained and burnt out of energy just by listening to this perpetual drip and noise. And it affects me, and it's got to be affecting other people. I see it, people we're talking to. You walk into a room, imagine walking down a corridor, and you walk into this room, and you're going, it's a nice sunny day outside. And someone goes, it's awful, isn't it? And you go, what? Oh, this COVID thing. He's like, it's quite awful, but it's quite sunny outside. And you walk down a bit further, it's going to be really bad. And all of a sudden, it was quite sunny outside, but I'm starting to think about this COVID thing. And you keep walking down this corridor, and everybody's coming out and going, what are we doing? Oh, I'm so worried. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen? And it's not even here yet. What's going to happen to us? What's going to happen to us as humans when it actually arrives? So we need to start to think about how we act to ourselves and how we act to the people around us, so that we can build strength and resilience into what we're doing, okay? So that's what this talk's about. What is resilience? So if you look up the dictionary definition of resilience, they talk about, first one is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, Toughness. What is toughness? Well, in my mind, if something is tough, it's strong, it's robust. Think about a metal plate, or a dam's a good example. Imagine a dam. Dams are strong, they're tough, really, really tough. They can take everything that's thrown at them. You know, they're just rigid, really rigid. But what happens when that dam breaks? It's an absolute catastrophe. So my definition of resilience, that doesn't fit well with me, because it is not a good choice of resilience for what we're working on. This is the second definition. It's the ability of a subject or object to spring back. We're going to go through, these are horrible times. We're going to go through so much at the moment. But what I'm going to try and do just a little bit today is think about ways that we can take the hits and get back to where we need to be as people, for each other and for our families. Okay. So I'm an intensive care doctor. This is from the intensive care website, and they've been looking at resilience for ages, but their comment in the middle here is to overcome events and behaviors perceived to be extremely stressful. They're not saying they are stressful, they said they're perceived to be stressful without experiencing stress oneself. What? That's not helpful for us, really? This is an unprecedented scenario. Don't try and learn loads of new stuff. Don't try to be Teflon. Don't try and be that toughness side of things. We need to be flexible, work together, and use the strategies that have worked in the past during times of stress. So I did some stuff, learned some stuff from a guy called Mark Stacey, who's an anaesthetist down in Wales. He deals with difficult airways in children, which is probably one of the most stressful things. But just as a side job, he does high-risk obstetric cases, you know, just to chill out or something. So he knows a lot about stress. He's also one of the directors of medical education and innovation down in Cardiff. So he kind of knows a lot. So when he talks, I was listening, and he put together some things that are kind of practical about how we can, as people, not as clinicians, not as nurses or doctors, just as people in our day-to-day lives, try and take a little bit of that stress out of it. Okay, so I want to run through some of those, and then I will chat about what we're doing here in Ayrshire and Arran. Okay, I talk a lot. If you have any questions, just shout them out. Okay. Practice, practice, practice. All right, may seem a bit banal just now. You know, if you practice really hard at something, you get better at it, which is great. But what's the point of me talking about that now? Well, this comes back to one of the key themes that runs through this talk, and it's about self-reflection. It's about recognizing in yourself now, while the crap hasn't hit the fan, what are the things that worry and stress you now, and how do you deal with them? And we're starting to do a bit of this intensive care as a group, and we're addressing the things that are going to stress us down the line. And if you start to practice something, and if you know, they talk about $10,000 before you become really, really good at something. If you start practicing something, you're never going to get really, really good at it by the time COVID hits. But see, when you need to do whatever that thing is you're scared of doing, if you've practiced it, even if it's just in your mind, thought through that process of how am I going to do this? What's that thing I really, really worry about and I really need to do? If you think, this is how I do it, and you do it again and again and again, and you practice it, even if it's in your mind, the time you have to do it, you'll be like, oh, actually, yeah, I've thought about this, I've done it. And actually you start worrying about something else. So, but you know what I mean? If you actually think about the things that you want, that you're worried about, and practice them, then you'll worry about something else. I'm not sure it's a great plan, but it's a plan. Okay, so think about the things that are worrying you and try and address them now while there's time. I'm just going to skip some of them because they're not relevant now. This is relevant and important. So becoming optimistic is difficult during the time we're in. And I just want to talk a little bit about COVID and the stuff that comes out in the news. And I'll probably repeat everything I said because I've forgotten where I am. But who's heard that lots of people are going to die? Yeah, actually probably a better question, who hasn't heard that? Anyone? Okay, so there's probably going to be quite a lot of people that die throughout the world, okay? Not as many, this disease is not a severe disease, so not as many people as, say, who contracted SARS are going to die from it. But a lot of people are going to get sick. And what are we doing? In the media, on social media, we're talking about the really negative impact, and how we say the words to people matters. Because if we turn around and say, loads and loads of people are going to get sick, it's going to be really hard, some of them are going to die, but we're going to make a huge and massive difference to loads of people who will get sick, and we're going to get them better. That is a different phrase from what comes out in the media and comes out on social media. Everyone just talks about this is going to be awful, this is going to be really hard, and people are going to die. But we, as working in the NHS, have the opportunity to make a great difference to people in our community, to other people's families. And that's what you need to think about. Think about the positive things that are coming out of it. There's there's always two ways to look and phrase something. So think about how you say things, and think about a little bit of positivity every time you say it. The other thing is that in times of stress, we don't communicate well with each other, and we tend to be a bit snappy or short, and it's because we're stressed, and it's natural, and you'll have had that experience. You'll have come into work, you'll have had a bad day, just the day before or whatever, the weekend, you had a flat tire, running a bit late, you come in and you're short with someone, or someone's short with you. Maybe your colleague, maybe your boss, maybe one of the juniors, and you turn around and you're just like, oh, for fuck's sake, I just want to do my work. And then the next time you see that person, you don't see them all the time, they come into the tea room and you go, and they come up and they say, do you want a cup of tea? And you're like, no thanks. What do I want a cup of tea from you from? What I'm trying to say is there's some evidence to suggest that if someone says one bad thing to you, and particularly if you've just met them, it's going to take them 3 or 4 nice gestures to get you back onto an even keel, get you back to 0. Okay? Now that doesn't even compute when you're in a relationship. If you're in a relationship, it's like, it amplifies like this. I'm still getting over something I said in 2003. So just think about how we speak to people, even in the stressful environments, and give other people a bit of leeway. People will make mistakes. People will say things they don't mean. So be a bit more forgiving of yourself and of others. Anyone had road rage? Yeah, a few over there. I used to have road rage, and now I just don't tell anyone I have road rage. Imagine you're in a car, someone cuts you up, or someone does something at work, and it really annoys you, like really, really annoys you. And then you get into work, and you crab it, and you snap at other people, and you're just a bit, and then you actually have a bad day at work, because everyone you're talking to is looking at you like you're a bear, and then you don't get stuff done, and so work doesn't go very well, and then you go home, and then you just have one of those conversations when you get home, and you're just like, I did not need this today. And it all stemmed from the fact that you got really angry over one small thing. Now, again, coming back to self-reflection, if you can recognize when you're getting angry or upset, and it doesn't have to be road rage, it can be in any situation. If you can recognize when you personally are getting angry and upset, take a second, lift yourself above the situation. He talks about putting yourself in a helicopter and looking down on the situation you're in and going, right, that's what's happening now. In the whole of my lifespan, and I'm going for 102, I think, in the whole of my 102 years, what does that one single scenario matter in everything that's going to happen in my life? And am I going to let it spoil a whole day? Am I going to let it spoil my interactions with the people I care for and love? And then you go, okay, that was rubbish, but I'm going to let it go because actually it doesn't mean anything. So, use a stress management helicopter. That's great, but actually what you end up happening is you get loads of stresses built up over the day that you haven't reacted to, and you're going to feel quite zen. But they're sitting in a bucket, and then you go home and you offload on the person that you care for the most. Or you go and you chat a friend. We had a person who was really good at chatting earlier. Her husband's in the Canaries, and he was on the phones, and he was like, oh, you just need a bit more positive. And she was like, oh, and they didn't speak for all afternoon and all evening, and she's like, oh, if you're going to you're going to talk it. So those stresses were from thinking about her work and her family, but she was offloading them onto other people. So imagine you've got a bucket that you put all your stress in during whatever you're doing today. You can actually stop and take a few minutes to think about the things that are stressing you and go whether they're important to you, whether they really matter. There will be things that are stressing you which are important, but there's all the other stuff that you can just throw out and think, well, actually, that doesn't matter. If you have, over the course of your day, a couple of triggers. So for me, it's getting into my car when I'm going to work, and it's getting into my car when I'm coming back to go from work. And if you just take a minute within those situations and go, what are the things that stress me at home? Okay, I'm just going to leave them there and throw them out, and we'll see how we go when I get back. And the same thing at work. Because if you carry all those stresses back into your 3 different parts of your life, then what actually happens is they start impacting each other, and you just get this amplification of all the stressors in your life and all the things that upset you. So try and think of a couple of triggers that will allow you just to go, right, I'm going home now. That doesn't matter to people in my house. I need to be me for my family. This goes back to a little bit about the positivity I was talking about. Everyone's talking about all the really difficult stuff they're going through and how hard it is. Nobody really talks about all the really positive things that are happening. For me, one of the most amazing things that I'm really thankful for is the amazing people I work with. And it sounds trite, but I have been amazed. Well, I shouldn't be amazed because I work with great people and I'm proud every day to work with them. But what they've done in the space of a week, from everyone has just pulled together to create something amazing. And I'm just really thankful for it. And I think about that and it makes me feel very positive. And it doesn't have to be something like that. It can just be something small. You know, in an ICU, we got a phone call to say the guy who worked in the Panda House in Troon wanted to bring up some Chinese food. And he brought up 40 meals. Domino's came, delivered some to CAU yesterday. You know, people want to help, people want to do nice things. And if you spend your time worrying and thinking about all the negative things, then you forget to appreciate the things that make life worth living. So if you take a minute and just get a wee notebook and actually, once a day, write down 3 really good things that have happened. It doesn't have to be massive. It can be small, it can be little things. Your kids in the morning said something funny. One of your friends made a funny joke. Write them down, put them in a book. See at the end of the week, you've got 21 amazing things that have happened to you in a week. Just look through on those things. When you're reading stuff on the news, we'll actually think, oh, I'm just going to have a wee look at my gratitude diary. By the end of the month, think where you'd be writing tomes of things. And it's about how we are mentally where we are in our places to be, and just making slight, subtle adjustments to it can actually change your perspective. And it does sound a bit trite, but it starts to work over time. One of the ways to sort of empty your stress bucket and think about things is a little bit of meditation, simple breathing exercises. Like Apple are doing it. They put it in their Apple Watches. They've got like a reminder, don't forget to breathe. And I've been breathing all day. Sorry, thank you very much, Apple. But actually, take a second to focus on your breathing. And what you're actually doing is you're letting go of all the things that are happening to you at that moment and taking a moment for yourself. Okay? One of the simplest ways to do a simple form of meditation is just to think. It's not a religious thing. It's just to think about your breathing. And this is called box breathing. It's essentially you breathe in for 4 seconds, and then you hold your breath for 4 seconds, and then you breathe out for 4 seconds, and then you hold your breath for 4 seconds. And you can do that for a minute. And because you're thinking about your breathing, you're not really thinking about anything else. And it just gives your bit of your brain time to reorganize things. And then you just focus on, right, what's important to me just now. Okay? So try and fit that into your career. You can do it standing up. You could walk into a cupboard, switch the light off and do it there if you wanted to. People will look at you strangely when you come back out, but it's okay. Okay, so your bedroom is for 2 things and 2 things alone. Okay, so one helps the other, but the other doesn't help the other one, if you know what I mean. So just stick with the 2 things. If you can get the 2 things, that's good. Not always, but we'll focus on sleep just now. If you start using your bedroom for other things like watching TV, doing the ironing while you're in bed, it's probably not recommended. But focus on getting some sleep, because that's going to help you. We all know that we wake up really tired, that we have a bad day. Our days aren't the greatest. So if we can focus on actually a little bit what we call sleep hygiene, don't drink 6 cans of Monster before you go to bed. It's probably not a good idea at the best of times. Exercise is good, but probably not first thing before bed. Caffeine. The big culprit is mobile phones, screens, social media, because it just sets your mind off and you just think. And when know your sleep pattern. So if you think I need to be going to sleep at 10, prepare for it before. Start your process earlier so that you don't. I'm really bad at it. I'll think, I need to be in bed at sort of 10 o'clock, and I start going to bed at 11:15. So it doesn't work. You need to think about when you're going to set it. So think about what works for you, set a cycle, and if you're actually in bed and you can't get to sleep and you're worried about something, don't lie in bed. If after half an hour you're thinking, I can't get to sleep, it's unlikely that you're probably going to be there till 2 a.m. Just get up. The bed should be for sleeping. Your mind thinks, if it thinks that you are sitting in bed doing other stuff, then it's not going to let it be a relaxing place for you. So if you're not sleeping after about half an hour, get up. Don't go and watch TV because it's just going to keep you awake. Get a warm drink, some milk, cocoa, and then just read a book or just go for a walk around your house. Sit down, do something relaxing. Don't switch on loads of lights. And then try and go back to sleep in sort of half an hour later, okay? Because essentially, I don't know about you, but I've been through that where I've just sat and stared at the ceiling for 3 hours, 4 hours and gone, why am I not getting to sleep? But actually, you just need to get up and then come back to sleep again. Know your dips during the day. I had one about an hour ago, and I knew it was because I had chips and I had the chicken from the canteen. So I was lucky I got here because I almost fell asleep in the corridor standing up. But know where your dipping points are, and if you do actually need to take a 10-minute nap, if you're starting to feel that way, go and get it. Ask someone to help you get it, because actually you will perform better. Microsleeps work. Skip that one. Okay, ask for help. Like, we're all in this together, speak up. People should be willing to offer you help with their expertise, and it should go in both directions, okay? Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to give help when you're asked for it. And if you are giving help, don't be condescending, please. Use the expertise that's in the room and learn how to deal with conflict. Who feels angry when somebody's angry with them? Anyone? Yeah, it's natural. It's like you're angry with me, I'm angry with you, and I don't even know what we're angry about. It's pretty much a day at my kitchen table with my kids. It's like anger's not a good way to deal with conflict. It just makes things worse. Everyone stresses out. And if you get the feeling that someone is angry and coming across as angry with you, actually people don't shout anymore. People are just really passive aggressive. I don't like, fine then. You get so much more than that than people bawling at each other, because it's so much harder to call someone out for being passive aggressive than it is for someone shouting, because actually there's a physical difference between those. But if you're getting that vibe, it's probably happening. And in which case you actually just go, look, I think this isn't working. Can we just stop and talk about why we're interacting like this? You're talking to me and I feel that you're angry, and it's making me feel a bit angry as well. Do you want to talk about that? Do you want to explain to me why that's happening? Because it shouldn't be happening right now. I'm upset by what you're saying, and we need to talk about that. Clear the air. It's difficult, but you need to have those conversations. Be assertive, but also be respectful, okay? Because we're all in the same boat and we're all going to be a bit stressed. Someone might just go, look, I've had a really bad day and I just need to get this done. Is that okay? And you go, fair enough. Do some exercises, whatever it may be. Might go back to the sleeping thing, I don't know. And learn something new. Who has been thinking about COVID at all today? Pretty much everyone. Who's been thinking about anything else? Sorry? Wine. Sorry? Wine, exactly, okay. Yeah, okay, yeah. So going back home, drinking some wine. Your brain needs stimulation, okay? That's how we learn and grow, and how your brain starts to get frustrated if it's not doing something that's challenging it. So learn something new, try and learn something new. It doesn't have to be something like I don't know, ballet or something. I'm not going to learn ballet. I don't have the... What? What? I could have been a ballet dancer. No. But, learn something new. Who knows? Does everyone know the correct way to open a banana? Everyone knows it's from the bottom end. It's not, it's the black bit. That's why monkeys open bananas. And they peel perfectly every time. They don't get that snap bend in the middle. So that was Mark Stacey's thing. He did that. My thing was learning a Rubik's Cube. So there's me, quite happily finished my Rubik's Cube. Still had my beard. I was very chuffed about that. But I don't do Rubik's Cubes anymore because one of my colleagues, Phil Jacobs, his daughter can do a Rubik's Cube in 3 minutes and she's 8. So I take about 40 minutes to do a Rubik's Cube. So I've moved on to drawing because nobody can say my drawings are bad. They're just my drawings. Take care of yourself. If you get hungry, angry, if you're tired or you're late. Late's in particular is quite bad actually because if something's happened and you're running a bit late, you just get really stressed. And actually being stressed about being late isn't going to fix you being late. It's just going to make your next interactions worse. Okay? If you're, however, caveat, if you're habitually late, then you need to look at why you're habitually late and make a change because you're impacting on your colleagues. Okay? So there's 2 things there. So what can we do for ourselves and for other people? Okay? So that's the bit I'm going to just chat about now. There's some simple things there. What can we do now for ourselves? So this is a hierarchy of what we need to do. It's called Maslow's triangle, pyramid. And basically, you can't do it stuff at the top. You can't think about psychology and physics and all this interesting stuff if you haven't got any food, oxygen, or the ability to go to the toilet. I certainly don't do my best thinking when I'm busting for a pee. So we need to sort out the bottom bits here and now so that maybe not the 4th one, because it'd probably get struck off if we do that at work. Well, though, maybe not now. But the thing is, we need to focus on the bottom bits before we can start doing the other stuff and looking after and caring for stuff. So during everything that's going on at the moment, we need to make sure that people are resting, that people are getting drinks, that people are getting breaks. And if it's not happening, we need to feed that back to people who can make a difference to it. So we are starting to do some things so we can do that. Again, reflect on yourself. Think about what's happening to you. If you're starting to notice that you're under extreme pressure more so than usual, start to notice things like insomnia, irritability, more fatigue than usual. You start to become anxious at just everything. You start to feel burned out, depressed. You just can't wake up in the morning. Those things are starting to happen to you. Then you need to speak to someone. It can be your GP, it can be someone at work, it can be occupational health. Occupational health will be stymied, everyone is, but you still need to do it because we know that there are things that trigger issues with mental health and anxiety are big stressors. And we're going through one right now. Like even just all the stuff I was talking about on social media can push people to the brink, and we haven't even got to that place yet. I've been through stuff like this. And this is why I feel a lot more zen about it, because I've been through some horrible stuff in my life and I've been for support and it's helped a lot. And the first step is the hardest one, is actually saying, I'm not all right. And it's okay to say I'm not all right. I know you'll feel like, oh, but if I do that, then I'll be putting them under pressure. But actually, there are times you just need to look after yourself, okay? So if you get to that point, take that first step. Self-awareness is important, as I said. Be aware of what's happening with you. Think about how you're feeling, why you're feeling that way. General self-care, get outside, get some sunshine, go for a walk, leave your phone at home. Those are all really important things. Just try and switch off your mind and don't force yourself to do it. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And the other thing is when you're thinking about yourself, who's the worst critic about yourself? Exactly. You just always be, who's ever said, I wish I hadn't, I wish I'd just, why did I? Those are things in the past that you can't change, okay? Things happen, bad things happen to good people and you can't change them. And giving yourself a little bit of self-compassion and saying, it's okay that those things have happened and it's about how you're getting yourself to deal with it going forward. And be kind to other people. If you see it with other people, just speak out. Okay, so I managed to crowbar in some Dara Brain just because I love him. Hopefully the sound is on. Where is it? The sound cable. So this is going back to what I was talking about, social media and everything that's going on in the news. And it's about how we phrase things. And I've touched on it before. You just need to be careful about how you're talking about things. And I just want to lighten things up with a bit of Dara.
There's a general kind of, in the meetings, a lot of that kind of stuff people don't know about numbers. I'm a numbers guy. I'm a dweeb, all right? I'm a bit of a nerd, kind of these kind of things. I get really pissed off when people give out about like crime going up, when they say the numbers are definitely going down. And then if you go, the numbers are going down, they go, but the fear of crime is rising. You're going, well, so what? You know what I mean? Zombies are at an all-time low level, but the fear of zombies could be incredibly high. I don't think we have government policies to deal with the fear of zombies. It's ridiculous, for Christ's sake. The NHS, there's a survey in the NHS about dentistry, where they found that some people are removing their own teeth. You know? And they brought on some senior dentists on the Sky News and gave out to him and said, how dare, this is terrible, people are removing their own teeth. And this guy stood there and went, well, obviously, systems should be put in place to deal with, which is stupid. He should have just gone, well, these people are clearly morons. People remove their own teeth, for Christ's sake. I'm a dentist, I don't remove my own teeth.
Okay, so think about the information that's coming into you. You know, this is happening. I'm not trying to make light of the fact that we're going to be in some really hard situations here, but that it's not helpful to hear that all the time. Okay, you need to hear a bit of positivity, and I see it every time I walk down the corridor at work and I see the people I work with, and I think, you know, there's lots going on, this is going to be hard, but we're going to be in this together and we're going to make a big difference. And that's what goes through my mind. That's my mantra. Every time I turn on my phone and I do look at the news, I think, but yeah, we're doing this where we are, we're making a big difference to people. We're making a difference to real people's lives, and that is what it comes down to. All the fear and anxiety at the moment is about stuff that's not happened yet. And that's anticipatory fear. And there's nothing we can do about it other than recognize that we're not there, and we're going to do everything we can. This just, stuff on your phone is just going to ramp it up. Stuff on the TV is just going to ramp it up. Newspapers. There's not always things you can do about it, but you can change how you talk to other people about it. You know, if you just start going, oh, this is awful. You sit in a room with 5 people and everyone's, oh, it's awful, it's awful. Yeah, it's awful. Well, in fact, that's all you hear and that's what you feel. Words matter. So if you can change the information that's coming into your brain, be it just for a little period of time. I'm not saying you can't be on social media, but you need to think about how much that's impacting on you. All them phones these days have got ways of limiting the amount of time you're on them. I'd suggest using them. People need news. They need to know what's happening. That's fine. I put mine at 15 minutes so I can get a wee look in the morning and a wee look in the afternoon, and then that's it. I've been off Facebook for ages. I'm on Instagram just so we can do the yoga classes from some of the guys in the front door of A&E, which is great. See, I'm working on my belly. But you know, you need to think about where your information's coming from and if it's useful. Take the time to switch off, because if it's there all the time, it's just going to run around your mind and it's just going to make you feel unwell. I think this is important, particularly now. So there's a campaign in England called Civility Saves Lives, and it is about how people who are uncivil, or is it uncivil? Incivil, not nice to each other, cost lives. And it comes across in the fact that we don't perform well when people are nasty to us. If someone says something bad to you, your mind, you go into this tunnel of, someone shouts at you, you're like, oh, I can't cope properly. And at times the stress, it just amplifies it. So there are 2 things we need to do. One is we need to give each other leeway and give each other a little bit of time, because we're all going to be stressed. But the other thing is we actually need to speak up about it. So if we see something or hear something, particularly if it's to a colleague, you just say, look, actually, I know everyone's stressed right now, but you can't speak to people like that. You don't have to do it in front of them because you don't have to necessarily do it there because it might be embarrassing for them or it might be a reason. But just, if it's one-to-one, just say, look, actually, you don't need to speak to me like that. I'm sorry, it's not acceptable. I understand you're under stress, but let's go back and start again. Do you want to try that again? Whatever works for you. We all communicate in different ways. Not everyone can do that. So if you see someone who's vulnerable, then you need to stick up for them as well, okay? Because it's important. I like this infographic. Leading through incivility, i.e. being a leader who is mean, is like farting in a lift. You may feel better, but everyone else feels and performs worse, okay? So we just need to be nice to each other. Mindfulness is go back to the iPhone thing. So when I was going through my stuff, and I'm not going to talk about me, I like talking about me, but it's okay. This was quite useful for me because it made me recognize that thoughts come into your head, and this is essentially what mindfulness is. It's not about fighting the thoughts that come into your head. It's about recognizing them for what they are, which is thoughts. And has anyone ever had one of those, like this morning it was like, I really want a bagel, and you start thinking about, really, really want a bagel. Would it be a cream cheese bagel? Maybe a cream cheese bagel with some smoked salmon and some cheddar. And all of a sudden I've spent 5 minutes thinking about the bagel, and then I go, where am I going to get a bagel from? All the coffee shops are shut because of COVID. Oh my goodness, COVID again. And actually, I've just chased that thought of a bagel down somewhere I didn't want to go. Mindfulness is about recognizing that thoughts will appear in your head and they'll pop up all the time, okay? And you can just go, people think, I need to stop thinking like that. You can't stop thinking like that. Thoughts are thoughts, they pop up all the time, okay? You need to just go, that's a thought, yes it is. Now, what was I doing? And that's what mindfulness at its core is. Okay, so there's loads of, I'm not going to talk any more about it because there's loads of information out there about it. There's loads of apps. I found Headspace really good, but there's 3 degrees to happiness or something. I need to look it up. There's an email, but it's free access for anyone in the NHS who wants to get into it. Or is it 10% happier? Does anyone know? I can't remember, sorry. I'll look it up and find it for you. But essentially there's loads of information and there's some free apps and websites you can get to. And I would suggest you do it particularly in the difficult times. Go out for a walk and think about going for a walk. There's 2 people here. One of them's thinking about all the things that's going on. Actually thinking about them isn't going to change them. Okay? It's just going to make that person on the right feel worse. The other person is aware of where they are and what they're doing. And actually they're not thinking about all their stresses. They're not constantly thinking about it. And it's the same with what we're dealing with at the moment. If we are always thinking about COVID, then it's just going to make us feel unwell. Okay, so we're all going to be in pretty hard times, doing good things for loads of people, but at some stage, bad things are going to happen and make us feel bad, okay? And when that happens, we need support from our friends and colleagues. And this video I'm going to show you, it's quite a short video, is just talking about the difference between empathy and sympathy and what that means to people, okay? So I'll just leave it for a wee second and you can listen.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, I'm down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, Ooh, it's bad, no. You want a sandwich? Um, Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with "at least." I had it, yeah. And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
So yeah, just, I mean, in our day-to-day work, how often has someone, or even just at home, or a friend, gone, this really shit thing happened to me, and you've gone, oh yeah, but, and how often has you've said something to someone that you're really upset about, and they go, oh yeah, but you could do this, and you actually, it doesn't make you feel any better. It's almost like, because as humans, we don't like going there, and we don't like dealing with that sort of stuff. So we try and fix it, or we run away, or we do something else. You know, there's different ways of dealing with other people's emotions. And actually what we need to do is spend a little bit of time just being human and, you know, looking out for other people. So if you see someone who is struggling, look out for the signs in them, and don't wait till it's too late to go and ask them, do you want to talk about something? Do you want a cup of tea? Should we go outside for a bit? Because you don't know before it's going to be too late, okay, for some people. So just think about how we interact with people and give each other support, because that's going to be really important over the next wee while. Okay. Some final thoughts on what we can do to keep yourself healthy over the next wee while. Eat some food, if you can get any. So I think we're all... I don't know what we're going to be living off. It's broccoli and courgettes, I think, where I live. Is the only thing that's available in Asda. Get some sleep and try and sort out your sleep. And particularly, I know it's tempting to go home and have a couple of glasses of wine or whatever, go out for a beer or something, and then go to bed. But that just completely destroys your sleep quality. So try and avoid that, particularly if you're coming into work the next day. Get hydrated at work, at home, drink some water. You know, there's a woman who does a thing called SISM training, which is talking about emotional first aid when people are dealing with crises. Grab a bottle of water, go up to them, have a drink of this, sit down. First things, aggressively hydrate people who are struggling, and do it to yourself. Switch your phone off, don't watch the news as much. Go outside, see the sunshine, think about the world in the spectrum of your life. Think about what's important to you. One of the ladies was talking about social isolation for her parents and going not sure what she was going to do about that, and talking about the people that are dying. And it's just think, well, actually, if they are going to die, do they want that to be socially isolated and stuck, or do you want to actually try and communicate to the people you love about other stuff that's not just this virus? Because that's going to make a difference to people. Remember the positives. Like, there's so much good, both in here but in the rest of the world. Just think about that, try and remember it. And you know, if you see someone doing some good work, tell them, you know, that's an amazing job, I'm so proud of what you did, thanks Paul. And help each other through this, because that's what's going to matter. Okay. And read Calvin and Hobbes, because it's great. And just, you know, volunteer if you feel you've got additional capacity to help other people. come and let me know. Send me an email, and let's help everyone who's here. Okay, so volunteer just to sit down under a tree. So what are we doing there, Sharon? We're trying to address some of those basic needs things. We know how hard it's going to be over the next wee while, so we're looking at some staff hub areas where staff can go and get food and drink, ensure that we get food and drink and some support. So probably the Worthy is going to shut, and so we're going to that's going to be staffed by a mixture of staff care and chaplaincy, and there's going to be food and drink for staff not working in the hot areas. There's going to be another centre in the Maxwell Suite for those who are working in the hot sites. We're looking at potentially trying to get the juniors mess opened up again and making sure that's stocked. So just make sure that it's somewhere that you can go, you can have a bit of rest, a bit of downtime, get that stocked up with food. Communication is really important, because I don't know about you, but I feel like the goalposts change every 5 seconds and I'm not actually sure what's going on. And I think that's because nobody does. I think there are a couple of emails that come out every day with a bit of a summary, and actually they've been all right. It's worthwhile sharing those information, and if there's anything we can try and do to improve communication, let your managers know, let me know, whatever. And over to you. Any suggestions, any comments about what we need to do or to look after each other through this?
In the tea room, people shouldn't talk about from 8 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
to 5 o'clock at night. When you're on your break, your half-hour break
Yeah.
should be a break.
Absolutely.
Not listen to it morning, noon and night.
Absolutely.
You need a break from it.
Exactly. And I think that's really important. And if you're not getting that where your restroom is, then you need to get another restroom. It's really important. You got to, I know it's really hard not to talk about it all the time, but it does affect people. It really impacts, if you're going to talk about it, try and talk about the positive stuff we're doing. You know, the people's lives we're saving, the good stuff we're doing. Because that's why we're here. We're not here as a place for people to come and die. We're a place where people are going to come and we're going to save their lives. That's what we're doing here. Otherwise, what's the point? Okay? Anyone else? I said, if you've anything you want to talk about just now, come and find me at the end. Cool. Thanks, guys.